My next guest is a dear friend. Been knowing him, wow, when I first started managing Steve way back in the radio days in LA. He used to come in there, man, with a camera crew. He's always been a go-getter, but more importantly, he's one of the most widely respected award-winning journalists in the industry today. Over the course of his stellar career, he's worked at various television networks, including BET, NBC, MSNBC, and CBS, where he hosted and contributed to programs including Conversations with Ed Gordon, BET Tonight, BET News, 60 Minutes, NBC Today Show, and Dateline. He is also a former host of Our World with Black Enterprise and NPR News. He has a new book, Conversations in Black, where he brings some of today's top leaders and influencers together to explore new narratives for African American leadership in the post-Obama era and the Trump era. The book will be released on by Hatchet Books on January 14th of this month and is available for pre-order right now. Please welcome to Money Making Conversation, my man, Ed Gordon.
My man. What's up?
Well, first of all, this book, I kind of, I know this book kind of started being developed in 2012 because we used to do the neighborhood awards together, so it was always
Right.
talk. And so I'm not shocked by it coming out, but it's also when we started talking, Obama was president. And so it really allows, I've read the book, and it allows for you to tell a unique story because now you have the Obama experience and now you have the Trump experience.
Yeah, it's interesting, Rushion. I started in 2012, at least the idea came to me, and the book itself is written as if all 40-plus of us were in the same room having a conversation.
Right.
Often some of the best nuggets come out of interviews when you're talking to the person before or after the interview.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to myself, with all the great people I talked to, wouldn't it be great if I could get everybody in the same room? Well, I knew I couldn't do that.
Right.
But I said I could have what people would see as a virtual conversation now. So it's written as if we're all sitting together, and each chapter is a different topic. So we talk about black girl magic. We talk about Black Lives Matter, the black vote, the Obama years, Trump, images in black America. We cover everything. And some of the people we have, Maxine Waters, Harry Belafonte, T.I., Jamel Hill, Angela Rye, Stacey Abrams, Eric Holder. I mean, the list goes on and on. D.L. Hughley, Charlemagne the God. And what I'm most proud of, man, is I started in 2012. I had to stop it because I got a TV project. I picked it back up last year in 2019, and now we got the culmination of this. And I think it's important because our community has kind of been stuck in neutral.
Yes.
We need some new narratives because our fight for justice and equality, as you and I talk about all the time, continues.
And it's really important that you say that because, there's certain points in the book that you were pointing out. Like in 2016, you talk about when you was on the Steve Harvey show, and it was in November, it was about the voting, and you was on the phone being interviewed, and you felt the synergy there. The energy wasn't there for the black vote. It felt like there was a complacency. And because of that complacency, we have to believe that may have cost Hillary Clinton, among other things, the opportunity to be the next president of the United States. And when you talk about that complacency, we're talking about that same complacency today, even though we are provided with much more channels of communication, especially with social media, right?
Absolutely. And Rushion, you brought me on Steve's show and gave me a segment because you understood the importance of making sure that we got certain words out and looked at certain ideas and certain issues.
Mm-hmm.
And, black America has been taken for granted for a long time. And because of that, I think we have become complacent with it.
Yes.
I look at the NFL playoffs right now.
Yes.
4 black quarterbacks when there were years and years and years that people believed no black quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about all these new coaches that they want to hire, but seldom do you hear a black name mentioned, even with the NFL talking about the Rooney Rule and we're going to really look at minorities. They don't. We're looking at what Trump has done over the course of this next 4 years, and I hasten to say, and I hate to even admit this, but he could win again. In 8 years of Trump, as Stacey Abrams says in the book, if you think this 4 years has been bad, you better strap in if he wins again.
Absolutely. So when we go through the book, you mentioned some of the names: D.L. Hughley, Eric Holder, Jamel Hill, Al Sharpton, Michael Eric Dyson, Ti. These are the opinionated people. But also, you have an opinion, Ed, and that's when I was reading the book. You kind of took a step back and allowed them to deliver the narrative. Was that difficult for you, or that was the whole approach to the book?
No, really, that was the approach. As you know, Rushion, I have been a traditional journalist my entire career,
Yes.
so I don't often give my opinion. Though in this book, I give more of my opinion than I would normally do.
Yes,
but
yes.
as I said, I thought the dynamic of this book was to get all of these people, to your point, the people that you bring in, the people that are go-getters, the rule changes, the people that make a difference. I thought bringing together 40-plus of those folks would be so dynamic. I mean, we've got April Rain, who started Oscar So White, Tarana Burke, who started the Me Too movement. They're talking about Black Girl Magic with Iyanla. I just felt like we need to start talking, and then more importantly, out of those conversations, we have to start doing. And if not, we're going to just be sitting in this neutral spot. One of the things we do in one of the chapters is we look at black leadership and ask the question whether or not they've been doing enough.
And that's really an interesting thing about it. I'm talking to Ed Gordon, his book, Conversations in Black. You can pre-order it now. It's being presented by Hatchet Books. It'll be in stores January 14th. Conversations in Black with Ed Gordon. He's interviewed over 40 industry decision makers, people I talk to on a daily basis about leadership, about what's next. But that leadership, I think, has, because we always go back to what real leadership, you always go back to Martin Luther King and you true leaders, and you go to Malcolm X, true leader. And after that, it kind of gets confusing ever since then. Who do we turn to? Entertainment has somehow become the leaders, the voice of Black America. Music, in your book, you talk about Marvin Gaye, what's going on, that CD that resonates with me, that music still is relevant today. But I feel that when you start talking about leaders, I think our leaders are entertainers. I think our leaders are athletes.
Killer Mike and T.I. both say that in the book. And we always had entertainers who were leaders. You think about the Civil Rights Movement.
Yes.
Harry Belafonte was out there, and Sammy Davis Jr. and Sidney Poitier. But you also had those other leaders that, were in the fore. If I asked you 20 years ago, name the top 10 black leaders, you could do it without even thinking. Boom, 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 boom. Today, if I say, okay, I'll give you Al Sharpton, I'll give you, 4 or 5 people. After that, name me 10 more. People struggle. And so I don't know that we have to have 10 black national leaders like we used to. But what we do talk about in the book and what we need desperately is a black agenda. No people move forward without a plan. No team wins without a game plan. And Black America doesn't have a game plan right now. We hope that this book will be the start to really move people to make a difference in their communities, because sometimes we're sitting and waiting on others to do, Rushion, and you've always said that, the idea of getting going, you being your own spark.
Right.
And so if you don't see leadership in your community, then you need to be the leader.
Well, you know me, Ed. My passion about information, about making people aware, being able to carve out that segment I wanted on the Steve Harvey Show, because I thought still today it's very relevant that we have a voice of not tied to just music, not tied to what's the box office, not tied to a joke, about tied to community results. Even you look at BET and TV One, they don't even have shows that are news generated to that level that we would want on a regular basis. They come on, but you don't know when they come on, and they become specials. But it's still, you get a countdown to the BET Awards. You get a countdown to the Black Girl Magic Show, but you don't get, but this is really great because it's about ratings, but it's more important to understand that information is key. We'll be back with more information from my man, Ed Gordon. He's on the show talking about Conversations in Black. January 14th is when the book will hit the stands, but you can order the book now. We'll be right back with more. Ed Gordon, my man, long time, but he still speaks the truth. Wow. Renowned journalist Ed Gordon brings some of today's top leaders and influencers together in conversation to explore new narratives for African-American leadership in America today in his new book, Conversations in Black, on power, politics, and leadership. The book will be released by Hatchet Books on January 14th, and you can order it right now. It's a pre-order book. Ed, welcome back to the show. Ed, when I look at the different chapters, what's going on, Obama, Trump, stay woke, it's the general war, stand up, black men stand up, black girls magic, the Medea dilemma, am I black enough for you? Which, oh, and much, much more. What chapter in those? Because you always have something. Because I'm gonna just tell you something about my relationship with Ed. Is that first of all, I've seen him motivate people in the public speaking forum, and he's a natural individual who is an educated individual. But when you meet him, you reach somebody that you can actually just sit down and just eat a hamburger with. And that's a skill that I always admired about it. He knows that. I always felt that. That's why I always felt that his voice needs to stay out there, needs to stay at the front of communicating our values. That's why I felt when I read about your book coming out, I said, I got to have him on the show because Conversations is Black is really about everybody. It's not tied to color because what people don't understand is that if one dominant race suffers, then it does impact other people. And people don't get that. Racism doesn't see that. They just sees we're gonna suppress, we're gonna become the power brokers. But if you hold back, it creates crime, it creates incarceration, it creates a community, it creates lower property taxes. And if people will understand that, that's what when I was reading your book, that's what people the number one thing is that all we want is a shot, all we want is an opportunity, and that's what kept coming out of the pages and pages that I kept reading about from the various decision makers that you were speaking with.
Yeah, it's interesting because for so long, James Brown talked about, kicking the door in. I'll get it myself.
Right.
And the idea of what black people have wanted for years is simply that opportunity. They tried to paint us as the welfare queens and lazy and the like, but we are none of those things. And we are the complete opposite of those things. We have fought, bled, and continue to do so to be a part of this country and to make ourselves great in this country in spite of the odds. And so, the chapter, Am I Black Enough for You? It was interesting to me because even within our race, we still, to this day, have this sense of determining, whether you can have your black card and who gives that out, and can you be a corny, nerdy, comic book loving person and still be quote unquote black? There's still the light versus dark thing.
Absolutely.
And so, these are things that we need to move past and get over. So many other people have it out for us. We don't need the kind of infighting. We talk seriously about that in that chapter and what we need to do to move past it. So, one of the things that I hope, as I say, at the end of the chapter, there's some questions. And we're hoping that people will read this like a book club and ask yourself these questions and then come up with your own questions about what are you doing to move not only your life forward as an individual, but to better your community and on a whole, your race. Rushion, when you and I were growing up, the elders used to tell us that we were representative of all of us. You represented your block, your family, your race. Mm-hmm. And we've kind of gotten away from that. And sometimes I think to our detriment, we get away from the things that have kept us from the times we were brought here in chains. That's what kept us alive and moving. I tell my daughter all the time, you are a descendant of the strongest of the strong. Mm-hmm. Because those that didn't make it, that died on the trip over here, that killed themselves rather than to be enslaved, couldn't carry on that legacy of greatness that we brought from Africa. And that's our legacy, not this slave, woe was me people that Hollywood and the news tries to portray on us. So, I brought together 40 plus of those, our greatest of great, and it jumps out of these pages.
We know the thing about it, when he says the people of reference, some of the names, Stacey Abrams, Harry Belafonte, Eric Holder, Charlemagne the God, Michael Eric Dyson, Jamel Hill, Yana Van Zant, Al Sharpton, T.I., my man Ben Crump. What I liked about it was that Maxine Waters, I can't forget about her, because she talks about, Trump and his power for, not allowing people to show up for the man. I'm gonna tell you something. It almost felt like this book just got printed yesterday. It was just so current and so dead on and so relevant. Is this book hot off the presses?
In a way, it is, man. I spent the last 6 months talking to everybody.
Wow.
And then I just locked myself in the house, man, and put it all together. And that was the hardest part, Rushion, is doing all these interviews and then kind of pulling things out of those interviews and putting it together so it would sound like a conversation.
Well, because especially when you start talking about with Maxine Waters, because she's talking about, how Trump is denying people to come to Congress and to be interviewed for potential witnesses, and how if he gets through with that, then it becomes unprecedented power, and people who do that, then everybody who comes in after him is going to do it as well. So it becomes the fact that how did Obama do enough, or did Obama, if he did that, like DL said, if Obama, you could probably put his on a Post-it, or the controversies he had as president, and you can probably put a volume and volume. So it was entertaining. I found humor in it because of the fact that I'm a guy who lives the life, who's been exposed to this level. But I just felt it was an everyday read for just a regular person who needs to be caught up. And that's why
and that's why I wanted to write it like a conversation. Sometimes these books become too highbrow.
Right.
They're too inside baseball. They talk about legislation that people don't always understand the way it moves through Congress and all of that. Mm-hmm. Or, they take a really academic look at the blackmail. And, that's great and that's fine, but I wanted this to be the conversation you have at your dinner table, in the barbershop, in the car, riding to the game, whatever it may be. I wanted it to sound like that, but I wanted it, rather than with your cousin or your neighbor or your barber, I wanted it to be a peek in, a listen in to the people that are making a difference out there, and then to give you the understanding that you have the power to make a difference.
And that's right. And I feel that, let me ask you this, because we talk about, that the black leadership, the black voice, because of social media, it is, I always tell people, with social media has changed how people communicate, because it's everybody's press conference. You don't need to have to call a press conference,
Correct.
Just post it. And I feel that in some ways that has diminished exactly who is doing the talking, because a viral video can do the talking for that particular subject matter. So has social media helped us or diminished our ability to be organized?
Yeah, I think it's done both. I mean, let's face it. If social media had been back in the day, King would have had a Twitter page. King would have had a Facebook page.
Yes, sir.
But what King would have done is he would have put it up on Twitter and then hit the streets. What we have too many people doing is liking it on Twitter, but forgetting to hit the streets,
right,
or forgetting to stay off that bus,
right,
or forgetting to et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got to be honest about black leadership. I asked people in one of the chapters on black leadership to grade black leadership. And, when you say leadership, you got to put that in quotes. So an entertainer can be a leadership. Someone like Charlemagne the God is a leader. He's got such a huge platform and he moves forward. Mm-hmm. But when we look at traditional leadership, leaders of civil rights organizations and the like, some people have been skeptical and not been happy with the leadership we've received in the last 20 years. I asked some people to give a grade to it, and not everyone gave, high marks. I mean, this book is very candid, too.
Right.
It's not just everybody patting one another on the back.
Right.
But what they don't do is they don't beat up without offering solutions or without saying, hey, we've got to have these people's backs.
The interesting thing about it is that I'm talking to Ed Gordon, his book, Conversations in Black, in regards to Hits the Stand, January 14th. Right now, you can pre-order it. Ed, can you tell us how we can get the book other than what I've been saying about it?
Yeah, you can go to edgordon.net, and there are links there that allow you to pre-order the book, or wherever you normally order books, right. Amazon or Barnes & Noble. But the easiest way, and you'll learn a little bit more about the book, is to go to edgordon.net, and you can hit the link. It'll take you right to the page, and you can pre-order the book. If you're too lazy to do that, January 14th, that's the day it hits the stores. If you don't like to go on the computer, just wherever you buy your books, get your books. It's a great present for young people. I mean, we talk about the youth. We talk about Nipsey Hussle in the chapter about black men and all that he did. So it's a little something for everybody in this book. But I think and hope that at the end of the day it will be an important book and get us, not only talking, but moving.
Tell me this, Ed, will you be doing a tour with the book, autograph
Yes,
session?
sir. We'll hit starting January 14th. I'll do press in New York and D.C., and then we head out on the road. Kansas City is our first stop.
Awesome.
And then we go from there. So if people go to Ed L. Gordon, at Ed L. Gordon on Twitter and Instagram, and on my Facebook page, you can follow where we're going throughout. So we're excited. Be heading out west as well, traveling the country. So we're trying to get people to join the conversation.
Yes, sir.
Have a conversation in Black, and then get out there. We need new narratives. We need everybody involved, because at the end of the day, particularly if Trump wins again, heaven forbid, they're putting us all in the same boat, no pun intended.
Absolutely. Conversations in Black, Ed Gordon, book comes out January 14th. Ed, thank you for coming on the show. Get those banners to me because I want to promote your book tour as well. Okay?
Will do.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, brother.